Hello and welcome to the Buy, Sell, Hold Spotlight presented by Sports Car Market Magazine. I'm Darren Roberge. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Also be sure to join in the conversation and share your thoughts by leaving us a comment below. Our guest today is Hans Wurl. He is a specialist at Gooding & Company. Welcome, Hans.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Darren.
A lot going on at Gooding & Company. Give us a little recap of what's happened over there since the last time we talked to you at Monterey.
Yeah, so 2022 was a fantastic year for Gooding & Company. We had record sales, our largest sales results at Amelia Island, and Pebble Beach was another banner year for us. So it was really wonderful to get back in front of our clients, to be able to do live auctions again, without as much drama as we had obviously earlier with COVID. So 2022 was a great year. And it was highlighted really by the addition of an annual sale in London at the Hampton Court Concours Elegance, which went off just wonderfully. So a really great year for Gooding & Company in 2022.
The Paris sale looked fabulous for sure. Another fabulous sale upcoming is Amelia Island in early March. Give us a preview of that event. What's going to be different this year? If you haven't been, what to expect?
Yeah, so obviously anybody who hasn't been to Amelia Island is really losing out. That week has just done nothing but grow for the last 20 years. And obviously has seen a real switch with takeover and ownership. And so Gooding & Company's really, in essence, kind of doubled down this year on Amelia Island. And we have a 2-day sale for the first time in our 13-year history there. So we really have had an unprecedented response from our clients who want our services to sell cars at Amelia Island. And this is how we've responded. So we're really, really excited to have our largest ever offering this year in 2023 at the Amelia Island auctions. It's going to be a really, really great sale.
Well, your docket so far is looking wonderful. So let's just get right into it. You got a bunch of great cars and let's start talking about them. You guys have a collection of Porsche Ruf models that is one of the better ones I've seen probably ever. Right at the top of the food chain on that one, 1998 Ruf Turbo R. I mean, that's sort of the poster car for what it is that they do over there. Finished in a vibrant factory color of the Bluto Orange, the POR18 with black leather interior, fabric, and lightweight bucket seats. It's one of 15 built by Ruf. It's upgraded the higher performance specification of the Turbo R Limited from 2016 with newer technology and advancements. Super low miles, just under 14,000 on there. I don't know how the previous owner managed to do that. Where are we standing with that car to lead this collection?
So yeah, Darren. So Ruf for us has, and really the collector car industry in general has really come on strong from both a value and a significance standpoint. I remember when I used to get my car magazines in the mail, Road and Track and Car and Driver and Motor Trend when I was a kid. And, the Rufs really stood out all the way from Road and Track's top speed test in Germany when they went 211 miles an hour with a Yellowbird. Ruf's really interesting because they're their own manufacturer. And so the quality of these cars really exceeds a lot of other tuner cars from Germany and other places. So this particular car, the 98 Ruf Turbo Rs were leftover 98 shells that were built with more modern technology at a later date. They are absolutely incredible things, highly collectible, incredible to drive. So this particular car is in this super, super cool color, this blood orange basically, and it's just going to be a wonderful, wonderful thing to have at auction. We're excited about all 4 of these Rufs.
And Ruf is interesting from a perspective of marketing in a bunch of different directions. Not only were they kind of the darlings of the car magazine thing during the time period that they've kind of been doing what they've been doing, but if you think about it, there was a time period where Porsche was not really allowing their cars to be licensed for things like video games, and Ruf was really on top of that. So if you ever played any of the Gran Turismo games, those were kind of the halo cars if you were a Porsche fan.
Yeah, absolutely. They've really ascended, and I think that's a great point. They've worked very hard to ascend in the minds of car enthusiasts, and they've always held themselves to a very high standard, and their cars are phenomenal. From the first tuned Porsches that they did before they were really licensed as a manufacturer, all the way up to the cars that you can get from them today, they've always had, head and shoulders quality above other tuners of their type.
Yeah, phenomenal stuff. There's more phenomenal cars from this collection. Next up, 1998 Ruf Turbo R convertible. The sole Ruf Turbo R convertible made, 1 out of 15 Turbo Rs total. Same great orange color, powered by twin turbocharged engine that produces 490 horsepower. And this vehicle's known, it's been owned by several notable collectors that are big Porsche guys. And it was displayed at the Peterson Museum in 2021. Just 3 owners from new. Thoughts on this car?
Yeah, I mean, they're perfect bookends, right? They're both turbo Rs. It's the only cabriolet, goes with the coupe. They're in the same color. Obviously very intentionally put together in this collection. I mean, what more can you say? It's effectively the open version of the car we talked about earlier, and it's the only one. So it has all the hallmarks of collectability.
Indeed. This is probably my favorite car that you guys have in this collection, and it's largely because of the video game connection. 1997 Ruf BTR2, one of approximately just 10 BTR2s constructed. This is chassis 001, and it's finished in the classic Ruf color speed yellow. Obviously, the Yellowbird is an iconic car. This is sort of giving reminders of that vehicle. Converted to US spec, shows less than 26,000 miles on it. Can you do better than on a 997 or a 993 rather than this car?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think so. I mean, obviously the turbo Rs that were built later were done with carbon ceramic brakes, but when it comes to a car that was built in the 993 period by Ruf, this is effectively as good as it gets. It's the first one, like you say, it's in yellow, and what's better than a yellow Ruf, right? So no, another great example.
Indeed. Here's the wild card of the collection, 2007 Ruf Arcade Coupe. This is kind of a Italian meets German kind of situation here with some much more aggressive styling than we're sort of used to seeing on German cars. It's based on the Cayman body style. Only two built, prototype vehicles, but this is kind of a coach built offering from Ruf, which is extremely rare. I believe it's the only one, and it shows in a very, very unusual and cool and nostalgic gray color. 6,000 miles on the odometer on this one. What do you think on this? Do you think this one might kind of be the sleeper here?
Yeah, it could, Darren. This is one of those cars where you see it just in description and you think, oh God, I got to Google that. And then you go and you Google it and you're like, oh, that's a real Ruf. And not only is it a real Ruf, but they partnered with Studio Torino in Italy to do the body style. And they built two of them. And the other one is still with Studio Torino. So it's the only one that's going to be out there. There doesn't have to be a huge broad market for a car like this because it's the only one. So I think it should obviously, garner a high level of appreciation. It's a real Ruf. It's just not in a body style that we really normally associate with them. But yeah, it definitely is a car that I think could surprise.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures of these cars on the internet when it came out, and I was absolutely blown away by how aggressive they were. So the chance to own one of these is certainly an event, and somebody is going to be real happy to take this home. Moving on with other German cars. 1962 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Roadster. These have kind of become the standard for major auction weeks, and they never disappoint. They're phenomenal cars, especially the late production disc brake cars like this one. One of 270 built before the introduction of the Ally block fuel-injected inline six-cylinder engine. Well documented from new. Recent Concours quality restoration by Mercedes Classic Center in California, which nobody does it better than they do. Period correct color of black over green, which is incredibly striking on these cars. We talk about kind of the difference in the comparisons between the Gullwings and the Roadsters. I think we've pretty well established that the Roadsters are the better overall cars. What do you think about sort of the market potential for something like this, especially in that really fantastic color combination?
Yeah. So what we've seen with 300 SLs in general is that different examples can really, exceed the market expectations of a lesser car, let's say. These are all incredibly special machines, but there are certain cars, whether it's who restored them or their specification or their color combination. And this car kind of has a little bit of everything. It's pretty broadly regarded to be the correct specification for someone who really wants to drive. You get the disc brakes, but the iron block cars are inherently maybe a little more robust. And it's obviously, like you said, it's a Classic Center restoration in black over green. So you couldn't really, you couldn't draw up a more attractive 300 SL Roadster. And so, it's really, really a top example.
Yeah, that one's hard to beat for sure. Another one that's hard to beat back with Porsche. I mean, this is the pinnacle of collectability with Porsche, if you really think about it from the perspective of 911s. 1973 Porsche 911 Carrera RS 2.7 Touring. It's the light yellow color, which is wonderful on that car. Retains matching numbers engine per Porsche certification of authenticity. It's undergone an extensive photo documented mechanical and cosmetic restoration. This, in my opinion, is the best Porsche ever built right here. I mean, how do you do better than this?
Yeah, if you're a Porsche collector of any real repute or you have a collection of any size or value, you kind of have to have one of these. And, a lot of people really aspire for a lightweight car. But there's a larger selection of high quality examples if you go for a touring. And really, since most of us are going to use them on the road, it's kind of the better option anyway. So yeah, I mean, again, a light yellow on an RS touring is a super attractive color. This one is matching numbers and is really, really well presented. So, these are not easy cars to buy and make, there's a lot of pitfalls, and you got to make sure that you're looking at quality examples like this.
Yeah, we see things in legal files all the time in sports car market about people purchasing these and finding out that they're not authentic and so on. So having a really thoroughly vetted example like this one here, it makes the process a lot easier and benefits you significantly down the line. So if you're looking for one of these, this seems like a good one. Another good one you guys have, 1958 BMW 507 Series 2. We've seen a few of these come to the market lately, and there seems to be a lot of interest in them right now, and makes sense. They're rare. One of only 218 Series 2 507s built. The late production cars have the refinements that you want. Dark blue or beige leather, phenomenal color combination. You see a lot of them in silver. This color combination is equally striking, if not more so. Lots of well-known owners, including Oscar Davis, who we've recently seen bring a lot of cars to market of really high quality. This should be no exception. Recent cosmetic and mechanical attention done by marque experts. And here's the thing that's so great about the 507s. They're comfortable, they're reliable, and they're eligible for absolutely everything. So if you're looking for something that's going to give you all the lifestyle event access that you could ever want, a 507 is a really, really drama-free way to do that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much rarer than a 300 SL, right? And they've obviously really been highly regarded recently, which is, they've kind of come up in value and prestige. And I've been really lucky enough to spend a lot of time behind the wheel of a 507, and they're amazing cars. They're just amazing, amazing things. And so it's one of those great cars that you get to see and walk up to, and it obviously has all the style in the world. And then you get in it, and it's a great driver's car. They make amazing noise. And like you said, you could drive one in all the best road going events all over the world. And so yeah, there's not much better than a 507 on a windy road, as long as you're not in a huge hurry. But they're beautiful things.
Yeah, indeed. Another beautiful car, potentially the most beautiful car in the world. This is your star car. This is the big dog that you have that you're bringing to Amelia Island so far. And of course, anybody on earth can appreciate the beauty of this car. For many people, the most beautiful car ever produced. 1961 Ferrari 250 GT short wheelbase California Spider. What else is there to say? Chassis 3099 GT, coachwork by Scaglietti. Rare, highly sought after covered headlight example. I know there's people that like the open headlight, but I think universally the covered headlight cars are the more coveted. Phenomenal color combination. Built for the 1962 New York Auto Show, multiple more award-winning restorations by noted Ferrari specialists. Just 2 owners in the past 50 years. 2 owners. And it's Ferrari Classic K Red Book certified, matching numbers engine, everything you want in this car. It doesn't get better than this.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it really doesn't. For open Ferrari, road going Ferraris, this is the pinnacle, and this is it. And so, and this is one of those examples that really within the small group of 37 covered headlight short wheelbase cars, this was a New York show car. This isn't a one-off color. It's got known ownership from new. It's matching, all those things for our Classic K certified. I was lucky enough to see photos of the photo shoot just yesterday of this car. And I'll urge everybody to make sure to punch this up on our website or take a look at your catalog if you get our catalogs in the mail, because it is just this stunning color. And we were really lucky enough to have a wonderful location to shoot it. But it's one of those cars that just transcends all the legends and everything. And then when you're able to drive one of these cars, you say to yourself, oh, okay, like this is why. It isn't just that they're so amazing looking, right? And they're so historic and they all went to these famous owners and everything. They are such amazing road cars. And so, like I said, this is it. This is the pinnacle. And the story of this car is so cool because it was bought in I think it's the early 70s for a tiny sum of money and held on to in long-term ownership until it was sold to the consignor, I think about 7 or 8 years ago. And it's just been in great hands. It's had great care and it presents really, really well. So yeah, it's our star car. And we couldn't be in a better position. It's as good as it gets.
Yeah, somebody's gonna be really happy to get that car for sure. From road to track we go. 1953 Ferrari 250 MM Spider. This is going to be on display at your Retromobile stand in Paris this upcoming February. So people want to check that out, they can definitely do that. Chassis 0274mm. It's a very historically important, even serial number competition Ferrari, just one of 12 Vignali Spiders built on the legendary 250mm chassis. Extensive international race history, including Amelia Targa Flora. It's part of a collection that where it's been for 3 decades. Known enthusiast owner. If you're looking for a very early competition Ferrari, this is another one that's going to be incredibly hard to beat.
Yeah, and in most recent times, this has been known as Just Paret's Ferrari. So Ferrari historian and author Just Paret is obviously incredibly well known, and anybody who has a bunch of Ferrari books has got Paret books on their shelf. And so this, as you said, this car is really neat, early racing history with Amelia and Targa Florio. And it's more recently been in long-term ownership with Just Paret. So, early Ferrari competition cars are always going to be, real blue chip sought after things. And it's really, really, nice to have one coming to sale from long-term ownership that has not been on the market, and really well presented as well. So another really great offering for us at Amelia Island.
For those who may not know, explain the significance of the even serial number on the early Ferrari competition cars.
Yeah, so Ferrari basically decided that they were gonna use even numbers for their racing cars and odd numbers for the road cars. And so there are some custom bodied race cars that ended up being road cars that are even numbered, but predominantly cars like this 250mm would have ended up with an even number. And so you can relatively easily differentiate early Ferraris by their even or odd number, whether they were intended as competition cars or road cars.
Moving on from vintage to retro, 1990 Ferrari F40, true supercar icon, 53rd of 213 US spec F40s built. Collector owned from new, which is important on these cars for sure. They're not chopped up and painted gray or green or whatever else you want to do with it. Exceptional time capsule example showing just 1,236 miles on the odometer. How does somebody not drive one of these cars, number one? And number two, go into a little bit more depth on why the previous ownership is so crucial on these cars.
Yeah. So first of all, I have no idea. I mean, I'd like to think if I ended up with an F40, I'd have 1,200 miles on it by the end of the weekend, right? Easier said than done when it's not my money. But the cars, in a very general sense, F40s either ended up with people who wanted to drive them, or they ended up with people who didn't, and original ownership, right? And so there's a big kind of delta between, a lot like I discussed with 300 SLs, there's a delta between a really good one and something more mediocre. And that has to do with the level of care and servicing that it's gone through, and just, I guess, how big a part of someone's life it was to make sure that it remained in great condition. And then when you take, the roughly 1,400, I believe it is, F40s, and you distill them down into the US spec examples, which is only 213 cars, it becomes rarer and rarer to have these really low mileage, really high quality F40s. We're on a fantastic run. We've sold 3 incredible, super original, including 1 or 2 out of original ownership, the US spec F40s in the last couple of years. And obviously we've seen a huge rise in values. And this is just another in a long line of incredible examples we've been able to bring to auction. And so we're, as any car enthusiast, we're really excited to have an F40 in the sale, but also one that's just so good.
Yeah, F40s are super hot right now, and quality is king on these, just like anything else. This seems like a really good example. Another vehicle we've seen in the market pretty routinely over the last 12 months, 1958 Ferrari 250 GT TDF Berlinetta. This market seems a little bit strange to me. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. There's been quite a few of them out there right now. What do you think TDFs are sort of positioned within the marketplace right now?
Yeah, I think that I do think that they ebb and flow, and Ferrari competition cars can be a little bit like that. And that will depend a lot on the examples that have been brought to auction. Again, this is, I believe, the 3rd one we've had in maybe the last 3 or 4 years. And they're not apples to apples all the time. These things live their own singular lives. And so, whether a car is rebodied or whether it's matching numbers or not matching numbers, what it did in period from a race history standpoint, and then what kind of ownership history it has, all really play that play a large role in what these cars are going to bring from a market standpoint. So we at Gunning Company are obviously always striving to bring them highest quality cars to auction, but not every one of them is going to be at the same dollar level. So anybody who's watching any sort of market of anything that's as old as the 1950s, with a very limited production, model and cars that were originally raced in period, you're always going to find a really, really large array of values that these cars are going to bring in auction or privately. And it's important to remember that you can't really compare it or call it a market necessarily per se, as if it was a Ferrari Daytona or a 300 SL Gold.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be a lot of variety in the lives that these cars have lived, like you stated. It's the ones that we've seen come to market in the last 12 years are virtually nothing alike other than sort of their basic DNA. So the lives that they live definitely is an important factor of these, and this one should do pretty well. So let's move away from Ferrari for a second. This is probably my favorite car you guys have in the sale. I am a sucker for these things, no question about it. 1955 Alfa Romeo 1900 CSS Coupe Zagato. From the standpoint of Alfa Romeo, I mean, outside of maybe like a Tipo 33 Strali or TZ2 or something along those lines, is there any better, more collectible Alfa Romeo than a 1900 CSS Zagato? I mean, does it get better than that?
Yeah, I think for mid-century stuff, this is as good as it gets. You obviously have pre-war Alfa Romeos and that are a little bit on a different level. But yeah, look, so many mid-century Alfa Romeos ended up, again, in competition. And this is another example that was in the Villa Amelia, 2 different years. And there's only 39 of these built. And so they are highly collectible. And the 1900 chassis is wonderful. It's only a 4-cylinder, car. But these are wonderful, wonderful cars to use on events. And they should be incredibly sought after. And we've seen really good examples come to market, that have been highly appreciated. And this should be another one. It's going to be a really, really great thing for people to be able to kind of ponder as to whether they want to add to their collection.
Yeah, it seems to me that you got to have a Zagato bodied CSS in any serious collection. Sure. It's almost a requirement. Here's a bit of an oddball, 1953 OSCA MT4, but here's kind of where it gets a little more interesting. Driven by Briggs Cunningham in the 12 Hours of Sebring in 1953. And additionally, and people love stuff like this, and it makes sense as to why they like it, unseen, hidden away from public view for nearly 40 years.
Yeah.
How does that check the box on the block? Does the exclusivity and the rarity of something that's been hiding, that has a story attached to it like that, how does that convert to dollar signs?
Any kind of garage find car like this, or barn find, or whatever we want to refer to them as, that's been out of circulation or out of people's consciousness for a long time, has obviously become really, really sought after. And that's for a few reasons. First, you want to just have something that hasn't been around the block, right? In the collector car world. And these also can be a really great basis either for preservation or a perfect basis for restoration, because when a car hasn't been messed with for the last 40 years, you kind of can see what you got. For this particular car, I mean, these are super rare. They're really, really exciting sports racing cars from the 50s, but this also happens to have Cunningham history. So it ticks so many boxes for someone who's been waiting for for the right Italian sports racer to come along. It doesn't get really much more exciting for an auction house to bring stuff like this to market. This is the stuff that really gets us excited.
Yeah, it's really fun to see things like this come to market. I mean, I think, us as sort of being in this business, we get a little bit used to seeing incredible, crazy things. But when we see something as unique as this, that has a story attached and the preservation elements and everything else involved with it, it really kind of sets the imagination wild on it like this. Another really, really cool mid-century competition vehicle that you have, this one from the United States. 1966 Gurney Eagle Mark I AAR car. This is the first ever car produced by Dan Gurney and Carroll Shelby's legendary All-American racers. Chassis number 101, engine 1254. One of just 4 Formula One Eagles produced, and it's been driven by everybody. Dan Gurney, Bob Bondurant, Phil Hill. Spent 38 years in a collection, currently of a Grand Prix car a specialist. For preservation purposes, the engine was fitted. The car was fitted with a reproduction engine, but it also comes with the original as well. Plus, you get all kinds of other goodies with it in addition to that. Incredible history on this car: French Grand Prix, Belgian Grand Prix, British Grand Prix, Dutch Grand Prix, Italian Grand Prix. It's been to the United States. It's been to Canada. This is about as good as it gets from American Formula One racing history. Where does this car go?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting test case, I think, because Formula One obviously is the pinnacle of motorsport. There's been a huge groundswell of American support for Formula One recently, obviously with the Netflix series and things like that. So when collectors think about this particular car, I think that what they need to consider is how many American-built cars have ever raced in Formula One. And it's a small number. So, and then when you take Dan Gurney, Carroll Shelby, and All American Racers, and everything that AAR did, for decades. And I think in all those decades that they raced, they only built 158 cars total, I believe. And this is the first one. And so, this car was Dan Gurney's initial assault on Formula One as an owner, driver, constructor. And obviously that came to the culmination in the fourth Eagle, winning the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa in 1967. So this is as historic as, a Formula One car can get from this era. And then you add on to that the fact that this car went to Canada for a very short period of time, driven by Alpes. And then Tom Wheatcroft was assembling the Donington Grand Prix collection, and he bought this car in 1971. And all the documentation is on file. And the car spent 38 years in the best Grand Prix collection in the world. And the consignor bought it directly from that collection and had it restored and has raced it at Monaco. It has with it its original engine, as per all the factory documentation, its original Hewland gearbox. It's got its original upholstery that goes in the interior. It's just remarkable. So, again, we don't get to sell things like this in every auction. And so when we have the opportunity, we really, really, like to savor it and get very excited about cars like this.
Yeah, that's a special car for sure. Special. Moving on to another American car here. Last year this time, we were watching the beginnings of the pre-war market get super hot. It does seem like it's calmed down a little bit, with one exception. Cars that are really unique, desirable names, models, equipment, etc., remain very, very hot, whereas some of the more run-of-the-mill stuff has kind of fallen off. And what you have here is a 1931 Duesenberg Model J convertible sedan. That's about as good as it gets with something along these lines. It's a desirable combination of the Duesenberg mechanicals, but it's got the Murphy coachwork, which is incredibly desirable. Authentically restored engine, body, and chassis. It's a recipient of the Best Duesenberg Award at the Auburn Court Duesenberg Club. Multiple CCCA and Concours first place wins. If you're doing pre-war, this is another one that's pretty hard to beat. Where do you think that the pre-war market goes on into 2023? Do we expect to see more of the same? Do you think it's going to change suddenly again? Where do you think we're going with pre-war cars?
Yeah, it's interesting to ponder, Darren, because the pre-war market is something that you could probably chop into like 8 pieces. And this car obviously is at the top of that, right? So there are a lot of pre-war models that I think we're going to continue to see, prices decline a little bit, except for very, very special examples. And then there's going to be stuff like this Duesenberg Model J, where I see a lot of longevity in the value of significant cars like Duesenbergs. It's 2.9 Alphas and 2.3 Alphas and things like that. But and the best coach-built Packards, and there are so few of these cars, especially really high quality ones, that I think there's going to be enough enthusiasm in the marketplace for quite some time for these to be really strong collectibles. The most important thing in terms of this car is the retaining original engine, chassis, and body. And even within the Model J, realm of cars, there are fewer and fewer that can actually say that. So a top level example obviously retains all of its original components, and like this car. So I think that you could say that there's some really inherent strength to this part, at least, of the pre-war market.
Okay, Hans, so you're one of the world's foremost collector car market experts, as we all know. So what's one car you're buying, one car you're selling, and one car you're holding in today's current marketplace?
Yeah, Darren, I think that when it comes to buying, I'm going to look for something that is the most significant or original example of whatever it is enthuses me. So I think it's really important for us to be buying things that we love. And I think when you go searching for something that really, really excites you, you should be looking for inherent qualities like collectability, originality, and historical significance. So for me, that would probably be, a Porsche that maybe has original paint in a cool color or something like that. And that I can really sink my teeth into the history and see myself being happy with it for a really, really long time.
What are we selling?
I think that I would probably sell the opposite. I would probably sell something in my collection that maybe I'd gone through the motions with and doesn't have any of those inherent qualities. We've seen a large escalation in pricing of kind of basic examples of things like sports cars and stuff like that. So if I had something that was maybe not that special, maybe on the higher mileage side or had been painted 3 or 4 times or something like that, unless I just loved driving it, it's probably a good time to let that one go.
And how about holding?
I think holding, if I owned a significant Ferrari, whether it be a competition car or a road car of real quality, I can't see the march of Ferrari slowing down anytime soon. That organization is obviously, remained one of the world's greatest brands. They've continued to, manage their heritage in a really neat way. And I just think that if you've got a great Ferrari, it's probably something you might want to hold on to.
Ferrari is the gold standard, no doubt about that. So where can people go to learn more?
You can always visit us on our website, which is goodingco.com, goodingco.com. On there, you'll find contact details for all of the specialists, including myself. We really urge anybody in the collector car world who needs a little advice or wants our thoughts on something to reach out to us. And then obviously anybody who would like to come to any of our auctions is always welcome. It's open to the public and we would love to see you.
Gooding events are one of a kind for sure, and they're lots of fun. I would like to thank my guest, Hans Wurl, for joining us today. To learn more about anything that we discussed here, be sure to pick up the latest issue of Sports Car Market Magazine by visiting the link in the video description down below. As a reminder, if you enjoyed this content, please take a moment to like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay on top of future episodes. I'm Darren Auberge. Thank you for joining us on the Buy, Sell, Hold Spotlight.